Good evening and welcome to the Stearns County Board of Adjustment meeting for Thursday, June 8th, 2023, and we'll begin our meeting by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So before we begin the meeting this evening, I'll run through a list of just kind of some rules that we have, policies that we have here that everybody needs to be aware of, and then I'll kind of run through the meeting process with you this evening. So if you're in possession of a cell phone, please put it on silent mode at this time. All testimony is being tape recorded for the record. If you're going to speak, you'll be asked to state your name and address for the record first, and then go ahead with your input after I recognize you. So all of us members of the Board of Adjustment are appointed by the County Board of Commissioners with one member from each of the 5 commissioner districts, one member at large, and one member appointed from the Planning Commission. Now I'm going to give the brief overview of our meetings and proceedings. I'll read the variance request out and open the public hearing. While I'm reading your request, I would ask that the applicant or the representative come forward and have a seat in front of the board by the microphone. The applicant or the representative will be asked to state their name and address for the record. And then the Environmental Services staff will provide a brief overview of the requested variance, the staff report, and if any correspondence has been received regarding this request. The applicant or the representatives will then provide any input, corrections, concerns, or comments. Once the applicant and their representatives have provided the testimony, the board will discuss the request and ask questions of staff or the applicant. Upon completion of the board questions, I will ask if there is anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this request. If there is, I would ask that person to come up to the podium, state their name and address for the record, and give their testimony. When all testimony is complete, I will ask the board members for a motion to close the public hearing. Once the motion is passed to close the public hearing, there will be no further input from the audience, from the applicant, or Environmental Services staff unless recognized by the chair or if one of the board members wants some type of clarification. The board will review and discuss the findings of facts. The findings are a series of questions that the board is required to answer based on Minnesota statutes and the requirements of this ordinance. Based upon these answers to the questions, the board will either grant or deny the variance request. All questions must be answered in the affirmative by the board to pass. And then once the findings are complete, there will be a motion to approve or deny the requests based upon those answers to the question. And roll call this evening. Jill?
Here.
Rob? Here. Amy?
Here.
Bonnie?
Here.
Mike?
Here.
I'm here. And then George is absent this evening. So we'll begin with our business for,
Shelley Benson, Environmental Services Director. Did you want to state that you won't be voting on these issues?
Yes, correct. Since there is an even number of members on the board this evening, I will not be casting a vote.
There may be one item where there will be a recusal,
okay,
so then you will come back in.
Okay, perfect. Beginning with item number 1 this evening, Eric and Brianna Kurtz, if you'll please come forward. And this request is from section 9.9A of the 10.211B2B of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to construct a 10-foot by 14-foot, 140 square foot water-oriented accessory structure less than 10 feet to a side property line, less than 50 feet to the right-of-way of a County Road 154, classified as a major collector, and less than 25 feet to an ordinary high water level of Pine Lake, classified as a natural environment. Said ordinance requires structure setbacks of 10 feet to the side property, 50 feet of the right-of-way of a county road classified as a major collector, and 25 feet to the ordinary high water level of a lake classified as a natural environment. The property address for this is 19497 County Road 154, Avon, Minnesota. And if I can get your name and address for the record, please.
Eric Kurtz, 19412 Red Oak Circle.
Thank you very much. And staff to report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Can I see a show of hands of those that had a chance to visit the site?
Indicated by the record that all but, did you raise your hand, Jill? All but Jill were able to make it.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, I did not visit it a second time, but I visited it, what is it, a month or two ago when we had another request. So
Thank you.
I'd seen the property at that time.
Thank you. The applicants own a .05 acres of Government Lot 7 on Pine Lake in Avon Township. The tract contains 1,032 square feet of lot area per the survey provided by the applicants. The property is in the R1 zoning district. The applicants purchased the property in January of 2023. The applicants applied for a variance in April of 2023 to construct a 10 by 24, 240 square foot residential accessory structure with a subsurface sewage treatment holding tank. Those variance requests were denied. The applicants are requesting to construct a 10 by 14, 140 square foot water-oriented accessory structure, 2 feet to the side property line, 1 foot to the right-of-way of County Road 154, and 9 feet to the ordinary high water level of Pine Lake. The property is in the Shoreland Overlay District of Pine Lake, which is classified natural environment. Pine is not on the list of impaired waters. The current impervious lot coverage of the property is 24% per a survey provided. The proposed impervious lot coverage when the project is complete will be 24%. All requests deviate at least 80% up from the required setbacks. The primary purpose and intent of road setbacks is for public safety for both property owners and the traveling public. The secondary purpose is to limit structures within setback area to reduce the public's cost of purchasing structures when right-of-way is expanded to improve roadways. We did receive a letter from, with their last request from County Highway, Jody Tyke, and I believe at that point she had no issues. So this is a smaller structure, so I'm assuming, we just assume that she had no issues with this request as well. Avon Township, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. And I did receive one emailed correspondence today. It's from a Ron and Brenda Zierden at 19436 County Road 54 in Avon. It says, "Dear Mr. Lucas, this email is in response to the letter we received regarding Eric and Brianna Kurtz, Avon, Minnesota. Unlike the previous owners of said property, Eric and Brianna Kurtz are not absentee owners. Their home is in close proximity to the land in question, and they have been diligent in clearing the property of debris and decrepit structures. We would be highly supportive of the proposed structure they plan to build on this property. We know from past experience the Kurtzes that it will be well constructed and suited to the environment." Again, that was sincerely Ron and Brenda Zierden, 19436 County Road 154, Avon, Minnesota. And that is all I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to state anything to the board about your application, please do so.
I guess the only things I'd like to mention is we had the picture up there of what the property looked like prior, the camper on there, the dock, everything there. Some of you have been there when it looked similar to this, and it was pretty rough shaped. The lot really looked bad. We cleaned it all up. The camper's gone. The holding tank or a pit that was there, we did get that all taken care of. We got the abandonment form taken care of. The only thing we haven't done yet is taken down the fence. We're kind of in the process, still cleaning up. So, but that's kind of where we're at with that. And I guess as far as like the structure goes, I mean, where we're showed on survey, it, like you said, is 9 feet away from the water. The only concern we have with that, you know, obviously, assuming we can't go any closer to the road, even though it is removable or a movable structure, but is that the water level oftentimes there is a foot deep in the spring, every spring when it rains. I don't know if there's anything we can do on that, if we're allowed to raise it a foot off the ground on some sort of a stilt or something, or I don't know on that note, but figured we'll see where it goes today, and we can always look into that part of it after this if it's approved. So,
Any questions from the board for the applicant or staff?
I have a question for staff or environmental service staff in general. Do you know, are there future plans to expand County Road 154? Is that in the,
Mr. Chair, members of the board, from what I recall from their previous request, Jody had mentioned that if they were going to expand, they would have to expand the other way. I mean, they would almost be in the lake if they were to expand this way. So if they would have to buy other right of way, it would be across the road from there.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Question for the applicant. So just to clarify, the difference between the variance request today versus 2 months ago is that you've made the structure smaller and moved it further away from the lake? Looks like maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet further away from the lake?
Yeah, I believe so. That on the distance-wise, I'm not 100% sure. I could look at the printout here, but the biggest thing is that we just made it smaller, and then we're obviously not applying for the holding tank as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing and hearing none, is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this request? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the request? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the request? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Bonnie Mossman.
Motion from Bonnie Mossman,
I'll second Jill DeLong.
second from Jill. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And now we move to our findings of fact. The proposed use is allowed in the zoning districts in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, yes, the proposed use is allowed. Accessory structures are allowed in the residential 1 zoning district.
Okay, thank you. Yes from Jill. Rob?
Yeah.
Amy?
yes,
Bonnie?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 1. Number 2, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls or any related ordinances, yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, Robert Schweigel, in the Land Use and Zoning Ordinance, Section 1.2, the statement and purpose. First one, A, protecting and promoting the public health, safety, and welfare and morals. I don't think that's accomplished with this.
Okay.
Especially with parking, you're going to have to park in the road right away. And number F, providing official controls to implement the goals and policies included in the Stearns County Comprehensive Plan.
Okay, no from Rob. Jill?
I'm going to say yes. As stated in the packet, the purpose and intent of the road setbacks is especially to limit structures within the setback area to reduce the public's cost in purchasing when the right-of-way is expanded. And it sounds like both from the county engineer that they wouldn't be moving that way anyways because it's too close to the lake. So it does not impact that. So I'm going to say yes.
Okay, yes from Jill. Amy?
yes,
Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
So that is a yes for number 2. Number 3, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
I think that Bonnie Mossman, under Lakeshore Living, number 1, it says to limit the impacts of additional shoreland development. And I believe, there are attempts to move it back, to take the septic off the table. I think that is really limiting the impact on the shoreland. It won't really impact any neighboring properties. So I'm going to say yes to that.
Okay, yes from Bonnie. Jill?
Yes.
Rob?
No, it's 3 times greater than 80% for the setbacks.
Okay, no from Rob. Amy?
that piece of property is a very unique shape too. I am a yes, and I do with Lakeshore Living Policy number 1 and number 8, both bullet points. There is support from the neighbors. And if there is any future expansion of the road, it will be on to the other side.
Okay, yes from Amy. Mike?
Yes.
Okay, that is a yes for number 3. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, yes, I do believe that having a small accessory structure next to the lake is a appropriate, reasonable manner.
Okay, yes from Jill. Rob?
I'll say yes.
Amy?
I'm a yes, and kids come with a lot of stuff.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 4. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner. Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I'm a yes. Again, the property is very unique in the shape and size, and unfortunately, you can't make the setbacks because of that. So,
Okay, yes from Amy. Jill?
Yes.
Rob?
I say no. He bought the property knowing that he would not be able to get even close to those 3 setbacks.
Okay, no from Rob. Bonnie?
I'm going to say yes. I believe when he bought the property, there was probably a structure on it. And they're just looking to replace it with something actually smaller than the structure that was on it.
Okay, yes from Bonnie. And Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 5. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I'm a yes. You guys did a very nice job cleaning up down there. It is a huge enhancement, and it does with neighboring. It looks nice.
Thank you.
Yes from Amy. Jill?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 6. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I don't believe we've discussed economics.
Okay, yes from Jill. Rob?
I'll agree.
Amy?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, number 7 answered in the affirmative as well. So all questions being answered in the affirmative, I would look for a motion to approve the variance request as well as a second.
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I move that we approve the variance to construct a 10-foot by 14-foot water-oriented accessory structure 2 feet to a side property line, 1 foot to the right-of-way, and 9 feet to the ordinary high water line.
All right, we have a motion from Jill
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
and a second from Amy. The remaining votes, Rob,
No.
Bonnie,
Yes.
and Mike.
Yes.
With that vote tally, your variance is approved. Any questions, please come to Environmental Services staff with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving number 2, a request from Michael and Laura Baltus of Freeport, Minnesota from section 9.99A of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to construct a 30-foot by a 36-foot, 1,080 square foot residential accessory structure less than 30 feet of the right-of-way of a township road. Also, an after-the-fact request to leave as constructed a residential dwelling with an attached garage less than 30 feet to the right-of-way of a township road. Said ordinance requires a structure setback of 30 feet to the right-of-way of a township road. And that property address is 39292 Kingsbrook Road in Freeport, Minnesota. And if I can get your name and address for the public record, please.
Michael Baltus. Well, my name is Michael Baltus, and my address is 39292 Kingsbrook Road, Freeport, Minnesota.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And staff to your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Can I see a show of hands of those who had a chance to visit the site? So we have all except for Jill, is that correct? Mike, you made it as well? Okay.
I also had a conversation with the applicant when I was out there.
Is there anything that we need to share for the rest of the board members?
He just basically pointed out where the building was going to be.
Sure. Sure. Okay. The applicant currently own Lot 2, Block 1 of Sauk Thielen Addition on Kings Lake in Millwood Township. Sauk Thielen Addition was platted in 1973. The tract contains 59,242 square feet in lot area per the survey provided by the applicants. The property is in the R1 zoning district. The applicants purchased the property in 2019. There is an existing 2,567 square foot residential dwelling with attached garage and a 320 square foot deck that were permitted and constructed in 2020. The subsurface sewage treatment system that services the dwelling was permitted and installed in 2020 as well. The applicants are requesting a variance to construct a 30-foot by 36-foot, 1,080 square foot residential accessory structure 18 feet to the right-of-way of Kings Brook Road, classified as a township road. The applicants are also requesting an after-the-fact variance to leave as constructed the residential dwelling with attached garage that is actually 28 feet from the right-of-way of Kings Brook Road, as documented on the survey provided by the applicants. The property is in the Shoreland Overlay District of Kings Lake, which is classified recreational development. Kings is not on the list of impaired waters. The existing subsurface sewage treatment system was constructed in 2020. The system is compliant through 2025. The current impervious lot coverage for the property is 7%. The proposed impervious lot coverage will be 9%. An alternative to the request would be to construct the new residential accessory structure in a location that meets the standards from the Land Use and Zoning Ordinance. Millwood Township, Sauk River Watershed District, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. And I did not receive any other correspondence.
All right, thank you very much. And applicant, if you have anything you wish to say to the board, clarifications, corrections, anything you want to say, please feel free to do so.
Yes, please. First, I'd like to thank the Board of Adjustments for your time and your consideration in the matter of this variance and to construct a 30 by 36 detached garage, and also in the matter of the after-the-fact variance. I was only made aware of that fact once I had requested Engelmeyer Land Services to provide a certificate of survey for the current project. And in doing so, I noticed that, oh, there's a little corner of the garage that is kind of tipped toward the right-of-way by 2 feet, 28 feet. The other side of the garage is, basically about 30 feet. So I do recall in the initial construction of the home and dwelling that Harns and Builders from St. Rose indicated that they just kind of shifted the adjustment of the foundation to be more water facing, on the lake. So we never really noticed that the foundation changed relative to the setback. One additional note is I'm originally from the New Munich area. My parents grew up there. My grandpa, Tony Boats, from Freeport, Minnesota, built a cabin that is just down this farm road from my current year-round home, which is now my permanent residence. My grandpa and then my uncles and my dad basically maintained this farm road for many, many years, and it's always been considered a farm road until the plat of 1973 by Salk and Thielen basically received an additional 33 feet amount of right-of-way to add to the additional farm road 33 feet. So that made a full 66 feet of right-of-way, and that was platted in the 1973 Sauk-Thielen addition plat. And they, at that time, Salk, Dick and Jean Salk and John and Jeanette Thielen donated and dedicated that 66 feet to the public, and Millwood Township has the authority, but they've never assumed the authority for the road. However, we have maintained, and now I, as a general manager of the Boats family Cottage LLC. We maintain the road and we share the cost with other landowners. And our effort has been to work on that existing 33-foot right-of-way of the original farm road, and we don't expect that it will change in the future. Since 1973, the additional 33 feet of right-of-way has continued to be used as farmland and for crop harvesting of hay and alfalfa. So during those 50 years, nothing had really moved, outside of that right-of-way. It was continued to be used for agricultural purposes. So with that said and done, if I regard the original farmland, I'm about 58 feet of setback, the 18 plus the 33, 52, 51 actually. But having been a builder for 12 years in Minneapolis, I have a respect to the zoning requirements and the zoning laws, and I, for this reason, am here present to appeal for the 18-foot setback from what is documented and surveyed to be a 66-foot right-of-way. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Board members, questions for staff or the applicant?
I have a question for applicant. Just out of curiosity, why do you feel you can't meet the setbacks?
If we continue, the elevation is very drastically moves downward for those who have visited the site. And by the time you get to the lake side of the house, it begins to level out, and there is the septic tank and the drain field, and then all of the land in front of the house is very low land. And if we moved in that direction, we couldn't build in the lowland area because it's very difficult to access in the winter with drifting and everything else. In the spring, it's quite soft. And so we feel that this is the optimal location and most reasonable. It gives us reasonable access from Kingsbrook Road. It also provides enough clearance between the structure and the house to be able to do proper excavation and water drainage control so that we can keep the water from both the existing dwelling, or my home, as well as the proposed structure, that we can contour the water away from that. That's a high part of the elevation, almost on the same elevation as the road. And then really from about the midpoint of that particular proposed structure, it drastically moves down as to a lower elevation. So you're welcome.
Any other questions?
Jill DeLong, question for the applicant. So which direction will the garage door be on your unattached garage? Is it coming straight out to the road, or does it go in front of the house?
Okay, the garage door will be on the front side facing the road, and it is the same as the existing garage here. It has two garage doors that are 8 foot. There will be one garage door on the this side, the road side. So there'll be a driveway also in front of that garage, so that makes access right off of Kingsbrook Road very accessible to the garage, just as the driveway area here in front of the existing garage. So also the garage will be of the same material as the house, so it will be exactly the same. It's a laminate siding, and the door color will be the same as the existing door on the house here. So all materials are being provided by the same builder. Arnzen will do the construction, so it'll look like an exact match to the house. So,
thank you.
I just have another question for you. The shed that you're building, what will you be using it for?
this is a home that I live in, but I have 3 children. 3 of my 4 children are also invested in the home. They have a room there. There are 5 bedrooms and 3 baths with a potential 4th bath. So it's a very full house. And, they have a lot of we have a Ranger, we have a couple of other 4-wheelers, but it will be basically getting the lawn care materials, the riding lawnmowers, all the lawnmowers. My garage is full right now, and I can't even get my vehicles in the existing garage. So that will be, for the storage of all the other temporary or, play toys, I guess, my kids' things, and it will also be a shop for me, as well. So.
Any other questions? Seeing and hearing none. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the variance request? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the variance request? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the variance request? Hearing and seeing none, looking for a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, Amy Sherping here. I will make a motion to close the meeting.
Motion from Amy.
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I'll second.
Second from Jill. All those in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Motion carries. And then is it the wish of the board to start with the new construction or the after the fact? Probably.
Start with the after the
Okay.
fact one.
I would as well.
Okay, very good. Okay, we'll start with that one then. So number 1, is the proposed use allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, it is allowed to have a home and attached garage in an R1 zoning district.
Okay, yes from Jill. Rob?
Yeah.
Amy?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
That's a yes for number 1. Number 2, is the variance in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official control, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I think that the builders and the owner made their best effort. They really planned on meeting that right of way. It sounds like it was some, not often happening judgment call that tilted it a little bit. It's only 2 feet, so I think it really still is in harmony with the general official control.
Okay, yes from Jill. Rob?
Yeah.
Amy?
Yes.
Bonnie?
I would agree that the road there, as we look at it, I do not believe there will be any significant improvements to that road anytime in the future.
Yes from Bonnie. Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 2. Number 3, is the variance request consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, yes, under living goals. Number 3, support housing options that give people in all life stages and all economic means viable choices for safe, stable, and affordable homes.
Okay, yes from Jill. Rob?
Yeah.
Amy?
I'm a yes. I do believe it also falls under accessory dwelling unit policies. Number 1, support a mix of housing that are appropriate for each zoning district.
Okay. Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 3. Number 4, the property owner is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control, yes or no?
I first want to state the accessory dwelling unit is not for accessory buildings, it's for accessory dwelling buildings.
sorry.
Yep, that's okay.
No, I had my wrong one here.
I've made that mistake many times.
Looking at the wrong circle.
Okay. Sorry, we're on number 4.
Yep, correct.
Still a yes.
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I do believe that the property owner is proposing to use his fully built home and attached garage in a reasonable manner. It's just 2 feet closer to the road than expected.
Okay, yes from Jill. Rob?
And I'm going to say yes, and the whole house isn't 2 feet. It's just the one corner of the garage. So.
All right, a yes from Rob. Amy?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 4. Number 5, is the plight of landowner due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, the landowner is the one who paid for and built this property. But if we look at the ABCD questions up above, the construction's completed, he made a substantial investment. Is the county's benefit outweighed by the applicant's burden if he has to tear down his house and build a new one? I do not think so. So even though, we don't know who made the decision of tilting it that extra 2 feet, so I think it's not necessarily created by the landowner.
Okay, yes from Jill. Rob?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 5. Number 6, will the variance maintain the essential character of the locality?
Mr. Chairman, Rob Schweigel, yes, it's a very nice house.
Mm-hmm.
There's no neighbors.
Yeah, that's true. Jill?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes, I believe the only one that will know that it's not meeting the setback is the owner himself. So.
And Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 6. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, so even though economic considerations do play here where he'd have to potentially tear down construction and rebuild, and that would cost a lot of money, I think that it's more than that. It's also a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of disruption, so I think it does involve more than economic considerations.
Okay, yes from Jill. Rob?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Bonnie? Yes. And Mike?
Yes.
All 7 questions being answered in the affirmative, looking for a motion to approve the variance request for the after the fact.
I'll move to approve the request for the after the fact setback from the road.
Okay, motion from Bonnie, second.
Jill DeLong, I'll second.
Second from Jill. The remaining votes, Rob?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
With those votes tallied, your variance request for the after the fact is approved, and now moving to the new construction part. The proposed use is allowed in the zoning districts in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Bonnie Mossman, accessory structures are allowed in the zoning area.
Okay. Yes from Bonnie. Jill?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Okay, yes for number 1. The variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, so I understand the intent of the official controls is to allow for plenty of room for the right-of-way of the road. This particular road is very low traffic. I don't see anything necessarily changing about that in the near future, so I believe it still would be in harmony. It is a good distance away from the existing road that's there.
All righty, yes from Jill. Rob?
Yes.
Amy?
I'm a no. It actually can meet the setback.
Okay. Bonnie?
I'm going to say yes.
Mike?
Yes.
All right, number 2 is a yes. Number 3, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I believe yes, under living goals number 3, support housing options that give people in all life stages and all economic means viable choices for affordable homes.
Okay. Yes for Jill. Rob?
I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to go with the Lakeshore Living Policies, number 2, encourage shoreline protection.
Okay.
You could move it closer to the lake, but I'm in favor of keeping it closer to the right-of-way.
Yes from Rob. Amy?
And I am also a yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 3. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I'm a yes. It is reasonable to want to have your stuff in a shed.
Okay. Yes from Amy. Jill?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 4. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner. Yes or no?
Bonnie Mossman, I believe it is unique with the topography there, the way it drops. You know, if we put that shed closer to the lake, you'd end up putting it probably quite a bit closer to the lake, and then you're going to have some lake issues.
All right, yes from Bonnie. Jill?
I agree, you know, as the applicant stated, there's drainage, lots of other land considerations for that land. It's been lived on for many, many years, so that shapes the land as it is. So I'm going to say yes.
Yes from Jill. Rob?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 5. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality. Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I'm a yes. He has no neighbors, so there really wasn't much to compare to. So,
All right, a yes from Amy. Jill?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 6. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations. Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I believe it also involves the lake, the drainage of the lot, so it's not just economics.
Yes from Jill. Rob?
Yes.
Amy?
yes.
Bonnie? Yes. And Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 7. There being 7 affirmative questions answered. Looking for a motion to approve the variance request.
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I move that we approve the variance from section 999A so that they can construct a 30-foot by 36-foot residential accessory structure 18 feet to the right of way.
Okay. Motion from Jill.
Chairman Rob Schweigel, I'll second that.
Second from Rob. The remaining votes, Amy?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Therefore, with those answers and votes, this variance request also is approved. And so if you have any questions, please ask staff during regular business hours. Thank you.
Board.
Number 3, a request from the Order of St. Benedict, Collegeville, Minnesota, from sections 5.12C3 and 10.211A 1A of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to construct a 16-foot 7-inch by 5-foot 7-inch 93 square feet vestibule entry addition onto the legal non-conforming Butler Center building that is located in the shore impact zone and less than 200 feet from the ordinary high water level of Stump Lake classified natural environment. Said ordinance does not allow additions or alterations to a non-conforming structure that is located wholly or partly of a lake classified natural environment. And the address of this request is 2475 Ecumenical Drive, Collegeville, Minnesota. And if I can get your names and address for the public record, please.
Russ Klein, 12650, County Road 51, St. Joe, Minnesota.
Brother Benedict Leitner, at St. John's Abbey, 2900 Abbey Plaza, Collegeville, Minnesota.
Thank you very much. And staff, to your report.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Can I see a show of hands of those that had a chance to visit the site? Okay, thank you. The applicant currently owns tracts of land in Collegeville, Avon, St. Wendell, and St. Joseph townships that consist of undeveloped areas and the campus of St. John's University with associated infrastructure for the university. The tract of land associated with the project is in the Educational Ecclesiastical Zoning District. The Butler Center building is one of the 9 buildings that make up the Collegeville Institute complex. The complex was designed by a world-class architect, Marcel Brewer, and consists of a lakeside cluster of 10 apartments and an administrative gathering center, Butler Center. The apartments were constructed in 1968 and vary in size from 1 to 3 bedrooms. Due to the constraints of the historic Marcel Brewer buildings, the Collegeville Institute currently is not handicapped accessible. The applicant is requesting to construct a 16-foot 7-inch by 5-foot 7-inch 93 square foot vestibule entry addition on the legal non-conforming Butler Center building. that is located in the shore impact zone and 46 feet from the ordinary high water level of Stump Lake. The addition will provide accessible entrance for guests and staff. The proposed project is in the Shoreland Overlay District of Stump Lake. Stump Lake is not on the list of impaired waters. The property is served by a wastewater treatment plant. The current impervious lot coverage for the tract is approximately 20.66%, according to the applicant's engineer from 2020 variance request. There will be no new impervious created by the proposed addition. There are no alternatives to the requested variance. Collegeville Township, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. And I did not receive any correspondence with regards to this request.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And applicants to your request.
I just want to point out that St. John's, we've made a pledge, a commitment to meeting the needs of those accessible. The building, the Butler Center, that was built in 1968, there wasn't a lot of thought that went into accessibility needs back in 1968. So this is nothing more than trying to make the building welcoming to all. So, thank you.
Thank you. Board members, questions for the applicant or staff?
I have a question for applicant. You're going to make this handicap accessible, correct?
Correct.
I'll follow up on that. Will you be back next year are all the apartments handicap accessible now?
No, there's actually going to be one unit that is ADA accessible, unit number 6.
Okay.
So one unit, number 6, and then the Butler Center will be accessible.
Any other questions? Hearing no questions, anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the request? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the request? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the request? Hearing and seeing none, looking for a motion to close the public hearing?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I move to close the public hearing.
Motion from Jill,
I'll second. Bonnie?
second from Bonnie. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now moving to our finding of facts. The proposed use is allowed in the zoning districts in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, the ecclesiastical zoning district does allow a mixed-use building like that.
Yes from Jill. Rob?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 1. The variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the official controls. Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I believe that the intent of the official controls is to reduce and maybe even eliminate buildings that close to the water. However, I can understand why the university would want to maintain a building that currently exists. What they're requesting is just a very small modification, and it's made for accessibility for additional people to be able to access. I don't think that that's against the official controls. They really limited how much it was going to impact. They put it on the side away from the water. So yes.
Yes from Jill. Rob?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 2. Number 3, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
I'm going to say yes. Under living goals number 3, this is a building that has some significance in its history and its architectural design. And one of the goals for number 3 is to preserve that. And by the manner in which they're placing this entry is in attempt to not disturb the architectural design of that building.
Okay. Yes from Bonnie. Jill?
Yes, and I'd also like to include the connectivity goal, number 1, to develop and maintain a transportation system that promotes the safety, mobility, and access of all users. I know that the transportation system is usually thought of as roads, but also having access of all users to transport themselves into the building is important.
Yes from Jill. Rob?
I'm going to say yes, but I'm going to add nature goals, number 2, ensure the reasonable and responsible use of the county's natural resources, including land, surface, and groundwater. I think by making that small addition, they're going to be, with that goal. They're going to maintain it.
Yes from Rob. Amy?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Yep. Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 3. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner. Yes or no?
I believe it is reasonable to want to make your buildings more handicap accessible.
Yes from Bonnie. Jill?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 4. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner. Yes or no?
Bonnie Mossman, I would say that this building was constructed before zoning requirements required them to be set back further from the lake.
Okay, yes from Bonnie. Jill?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 5. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality. Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I believe that the essential character of the locality is this is a building amongst many buildings for the university that will not change. So yes, it does maintain it.
Yes from Jill. Rob?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 6. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations. Yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, Rob Schweigel, I don't think economics play a role in it. The need is for wheelchair accessibility.
Yes from Rob. Jill?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
All 7 questions being answered in the affirmative. Looking for a motion to approve this request.
Jill DeLong, I move that we approve the variance to construct a 16-foot 7-inch by 5-foot 7-inch vestibule entry addition that's located in the shore impact zone.
All right, a motion from Jill.
Mr. Chair, I'll second it.
Second from Amy. The remaining votes, Rob?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
With that roll call vote, the variance request is approved. Any questions, please contact staff during regular business hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I believe, Rob, you're going to sit this one out, right?
Go ahead and introduce it.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Number 4, a request from Christopher and Carolyn Doucette, St. Cloud, Minnesota, from Section 9.911 of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to construct a driveway on a property that will result in impervious lot coverage of greater than 25%. Said ordinance allows for a maximum impervious lot coverage of 25%. Affected property address is 9422 County Road 138, St. Cloud, Minnesota.
Mr. Chairman, Rob Schweigel, I'm going to recuse myself from this for a personal relationship with the Tysons and the Willard family.
Okay, thank you very much. And on that note, I will be voting in this one as we are not at an even number at this time. So applicants, if you could please state your name and address for the public record.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Doucette, 9422 County Road 138.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Chris Doucette. Not working? Sorry. There we go. Okay. And we live at 9422 County Road 138.
Thank you very much. And staff to report.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, can I get a show of hands of those that visited the site? Okay, thank you. The applicants own a meets and bounds tract that contains 55,261 square feet, 1.27 acres in St. Joseph Township. The tract is zoned R1. The tract was created through the administrative subdivision process in October of 2022. The applicants purchased the property in October of 2022. There is an existing 2,496 square foot residential dwelling that was constructed in 1985, and a 2,944 square foot residential accessory structure that was constructed in 1980, per the Stearns County Assessor's record. The existing subsurface sewage treatment system that services the dwelling was installed in 1985 and certified compliant in 2022. The applicants are requesting a variance to construct a 2,894 square foot driveway that will result in impervious lot coverage greater than 25%. The applicants were granted a driveway access permit from Stearns County Highway Department to expand the existing access from the neighbor's property to the south onto the applicant's property. The applicants have an engineered stormwater management plan. The plan is designed to direct the runoff from the home and the driveway into the stormwater basin that is proposed. The property is not in the shoreland overlay district. The existing subsurface sewage treatment system that services the dwelling was installed in 1985 and certified compliant in 2022. The current impervious lot coverage of the property is 24.9%. The proposed impervious lot coverage with the proposed driveway will be 30.2%. St. Joseph Township, the property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. And we do have a correspondence that came in, and this was emailed to all of the board members and the applicant yesterday. Did anybody not see that and want me to go through the entire document, or are you guys okay with me not reading the? Sure. It came from the neighbors, Mary and Scott Tyson, and it was from Jadello, Snyder, Stomas, attorneys at law.
All right, thank you very much. Anything further?
And no, that is all that we have.
Thank you very much.
What was provided to you guys.
Thank you. Applicants, to your request.
I want to thank everybody for being here. I've never been a part of this before, so this is new, and it's clear you guys took a lot of time and effort to go through all this. We have been taxpayers together for over 25 years. We bought our first house in 97. We built our second house in 99, and this will be our third residence. So we moved in, as the gentleman said, in October. When we moved in, we were under the understanding we could use the road/driveway periodically to access our pole barn. This is not the case, so we are now trying to find an alternative to have access to our pole barn. We do have a fifth wheel camper that will not fit in the other door that we do have access to from the County Road 138. So anything super tall, like our fifth wheel camper, will not go through that door, and there's no way to get through that door. Chris and I are very hard workers. We take very good care of our stuff. We have a lot of pride in ownership, and we have really enjoyed the house thus far and have done a lot of work. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris, and as my wife said, we had 3 homes, been paying taxes. We raised our 2 children in St. Cloud. They went to St. Cloud School District, and we were pretty happy there, actually. We had great neighbors. We had, we lived in a cul-de-sac, and our kids grew up together with the neighbor kids and whatnot. So when our kids grew up and moved out, I started a business 2 years ago, and this house came on the market, and as my realtor knew, I've been looking for something for me and my wife to downsize house and have a little bit more property and have that pull shed basically for my business and for our fifth wheel to store, because when we lived in town, we had to pay for storage, so it was nice to have that. And as I sent the letter, after I received the letter from the lawyer that we had, you guys requested the letter I had from the purchase of our home about the occasional use. And it's not, I just want to clarify, it's not a legal document or anything like that. It was just pretty much, as we purchased this home, this discussion came up about this road, obviously.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, so Mr. Doucette later this afternoon got me a copy of the letter that he was provided when he was working with his realtor about the neighbor's driveway, and I didn't get a chance to get it to you guys, and you guys wouldn't have saw it in time, so I'm going to put it on the overhead so you can see what he's talking about.
Thank you very much.
Deb, can you turn the overhead on?
While we're waiting for that, can I ask a quick question? Yeah. The property that you purchased, who did you purchase it from? Do you know who the previous owners were?
It was a trust, so it was the Delrose Willard Trust. So Scott and Mary Tyson were selling it, but it was through a trust.
Okay. Was there any easement that came with it?
No.
No. And the letter is the only thing that we received through the realtor, and I also have this paper that my realtor screenshotted. And I apologize, I was out of town this week for work, but if you want to see this too, this was in the MLS, and that's where that letter that you were just looking at came from. So it's not like it was a secret or anything about us not owning the road. We knew we wouldn't own it, but we also knew that we would have occasional use to use that road. And that's kind of why we made our decision that we did make, because they seemed like good people, and we're honest people, and we neighbors, and why wouldn't you? And so that's what we did. And long story short, I'm not here to debate our purchase of the home, but as what came up now is that we can't use that road. So my solution is to create our own driveway to the access to our shed, so we don't have to ask permission or walk on pins and needles or anything like that. We just want to live like normal people and enjoy our property that we're liking so far, and our shed, and like I said, make sure I can get my equipment in and out of that door.
You said you owned a business. What type of business do you own?
It's small construction business.
Okay.
Yep. Just me. I don't have any employees or nothing. It's just.
Any other questions? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak for this request? You may come forward, and in doing so, please state your name and address for the public record, please.
Thank you. My name is Tyler Adams. I am address as 803 West St. Germain Street, St. Cloud, Minnesota 56301. I'm an attorney. I represent Scott and Mary Beth Tyson. The Tysons have, frankly, a lot of thoughts, I guess, about the variance application. They asked me to step in today to kind of put them all into a more cohesive and digestible manner. First of all, to really understand both the unique circumstances of this property and also the character of the locality, it's important to note some historical context. You see, even on the overhead image there, the proposed driveway is immediately adjacent to what is already an impervious surface that's already more than 20 feet wide. That exists there because the area behind these residential homes used to be a gravel mining pit that was owned by a company called Hard Drives Incorporated. That company and the mining operations have obviously both ceased to exist, but it's important to note now that they were the ones who initially installed that impervious field access road that is now impermissibly wide for residential purposes and is no longer used for the grade of commercial uses that it was once used for. What's being proposed now is to take that and add an additional 15 feet of width to it, which in effect would cause a driveway that's more than 2 rods wide, wider in fact than Highway 138 immediately next to it. This poses a particular problem for this property because the Tyson's property is bordered on the west side by the Sauk River. While we have access to an overhead imager, I actually have a couple of pictures that I would like to show the board that can demonstrate the problem that it causes. I show that one just for example. See, the issue we encounter is that the property is slanted slightly, I believe by about 5 degrees from the road towards the river. So as it currently exists, the amount of impervious surface already poses a stormwater and erosion problem as it is. And you can see in the field area there's already a significant environmental impact that would not have been approved absent a previous commercial use. And it's important to note that what's being proposed now is essentially to make that problem even worse. In order to justify that, I guess there are one of 2 possibilities. I think reading the application itself, one might get the impression, the Duchettes say, for example, that they are landlocked, that they need it to access their property. But the overhead image in their application itself demonstrates otherwise. They have a driveway that can access 138, and that driveway leads directly into the pole barn that they're referencing. What they want to do is expand this driveway so they can access it from the other side, but that in itself is not necessary for the enjoyable use of their property. But even if it was, there are a number of applicable alternatives in mind. Before the 20-foot wide field access road was in place, there actually was a driveway. If you were to look back at that overhead image, you would see on the other side of the road, there's a driveway on the across the way neighbor's side that used to exist in that exact spot. If the Duchettes were to imply a narrow driveway going up to that other impervious area leading into their pole barn area, they might actually be able to reduce the amount of impervious surface by ripping up some of the impervious area leading into that driveway area there. But all of this kind of leads into the central question, why exactly the Duchettes can't just use the field access road that's on the Tyson's property. Well, to be absolutely clear, the position the Tysons have taken has always been that they have no objection to the Tysons using the road to do an RV. The problem becomes one of they can't invite a veritable parade of commercial vehicles and commercial traffic going through the area. And Mr. Duchette has admitted that he runs a commercial construction business, and the Tysons would represent that he's essentially using their road in order to do it out of his home. The proposed use, therefore, is not as simple as just being able to access a 5-wheel. And I'm not asking the board to take sides on that dispute, just like Mr. Duchette isn't. But the point is, that's one of the primary sources of concern, is that traffic and trespassing will only increase should the existing field road continue to expand. And on that point, I would just point out the letter the Duchettes produced was not addressed to them. It's undated. It's not something that Mary Beth, the trustee who is referenced in that letter, and the trustee of the trust, she didn't write that to anybody in particular. I don't know how or why the realtor thought it was directed to the Duchettes, but it was not. The conversations have always been that there's no objection to the Duchettes occasionally using it to access and get their RV in there. That's fine, but they can't run a business using the Tyson's property. And there's a legitimate concern, not just for environmental purposes, but for land use, residential land use purposes, for which is why the Tysons object to this application.
Mr. Chair, a question for the public testimony. Is that allowed?
Yes.
Okay, so part of what the argument against building this driveway was that picture of flooding and the water management. Now, this particular variance, they do state they have an engineered stormwater management plan. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the images speak for itself. right? And I think, if we were, the area behind the houses themselves, that's an area that can be, and I believe is farmed by one of the Tyson's relatives. And that's one of the things that he would complain about as well, is that there's a significant water management issue. Notwithstanding what the storm management map says to the contrary, and I believe in my letter to the board beforehand, I believe we already contested some of the accuracy of that map to begin with, but I would just say, I would just let your eyes speak for themselves. I think the images show pretty clearly what is and is not happening on the property.
I have a question for the public. So this road going in, there's open land back there. Do you have intentions of selling that at some point down the road?
No.
So why not just let them have an easement and avoid all the cost and all this?
An easement is a...
And hold on, one other question. That farmland back there, is that tiled out?
No, it is not.
Is that sand ground?
Yes, it is. The mining reclamation was not completed per the environmental service specs when the gravel pit was completed. Angie Berg could attest to that, and
Hold the mic down.
Angie Berg could attest to that. It was mined. It was never reclaimed according to the reclamation plan. The water table is less than 2 feet below the ground surface, and it has a severe drainage problem. We had confronted hard drives, which has now gone out of business. It has not been tiled. My mother was in her 80s by the time the gravel pit was done. She attempted to correct the reclamation through the environmental service protection and hiring an attorney, going toward hard drives. It was never completed. She spent a lot of money on the attorney, got nowhere, and subsequently ended up ill, and it was never tiled or corrected, and that shouldn't really have been on her to do.
Thank you.
May I respond to your question about granting an easement? An easement is a permanent interest in land, and that certainly is something that is still on the table, either an easement or a license for that matter. The issue at hand is, first of all, there have to be certain terms associated with an easement or a revocable license interest that's granted in the first place. And the Tysons have always maintained that they're willing to do so under terms that are tolerable for both sides. But I think the long and short of the reason why is that it's on the purchaser of a partitioned parcel to impose contingencies on their purchase agreement for the use of an adjacent road. It is not incumbent upon the previous owners to then, after the fact, grant an easement or an interest in their property, particularly if the buyers had a particular intended use. If anything, it demonstrates that this parcel is too small for what Mr. Duchette wants to do with it, and I don't see why that's the Tyson's fault.
If I could say something, I would just like to say this here road or the driveway and this here water problem over here, if they were so concerned about that water, if you look at the picture that they provided, this winter, he deliberately piled all his snow along this property line right here with a large piece of equipment, which I would have. I'm just not here to argue.
Let's just try to keep this.
Yeah.
The variance
So
request,
what I'm
please.
just saying is I'm not here to argue ownership. We don't want anything to do with this road. We just want to be able to access this driveway right here to this garage. I want to keep it as simple as possible. And that's why we didn't pursue anything with them as far as trying to get access here with lawyers and any of that. So I'm here today just as a taxpayer trying to get some more room for our driveway to avoid a lot of.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I have a question for the applicant. We're looking at the driveway that you're proposing in the red rectangle. If you were to make that driveway wider, would you be able to avoid use of the adjacent field road altogether?
Yeah, we're not planning on using their field road at all. It's all on our property.
All right, so you would not be traveling on their
Not
field
at,
road?
not at all.
No. And their concern here, in the future, we do plan on putting a fence, so they clearly know where my driveway is, and I do plan on putting another fire number on the end.
Okay.
A question for the applicant. You guys already got a permit through the county, correct?
Correct, yes, and at that time, I thought that was part of the driveway. I didn't realize it was two separate issues, but they approved me of this here road approach extension, and at that same time, they denied Tyson's application for shrinking their road approach. They applied at the same time.
All right, anyone else in the audience wishing to speak to the request? Hearing and seeing nobody else, looking for a motion to. Somebody wants to speak. Oh. Name and address for the public record, please.
Jim Willard, 9562 County Road 138. I'd like to point out a couple things. The water that he said about the snow is false. When it rains, all the water comes off of the house and off of the, if I could step over there, I'll point it out. The water comes off of the shed here. The water comes off of the house. He wants to put a rain garden over here. This is low over there. The water there goes into that, goes through County Road and goes there. Water problem is this road was supposed to be shrunk by hard drives. The original driveway came in over here. Reclamation plan through environmental services, that road was supposed to be put back in, which ties into this shed. That door, this door is exactly the same height. I farmed it. I had farm equipment.
Could you speak to the microphone? That way everybody can hear for the tape recording.
I'm sorry. But all the water, like I said, goes off that way into a low and through the county road. This side, it all comes down. The rain garden they want to put on the other side, it should not be there. If it's going to be, it should be put on this side because he wants to put that driveway in, and I've heard that he wants to tar it, to tar into that other one. If that driveway goes, that driveway should be put back where it originally was with the environmental services reclamation plan approved by the county. That's where that driveway should get moved back to. Then the rain garden should be on the back side of the house, on this side of the shed, so that he catches that water, because there is a lot of water comes off that tar, a lot of water comes off the house. If you're going to grant a driveway, that driveway should go back there where it belongs. He can come in, he can come this way, he can back his toy hauler or whatever he's got back into that shed. I don't disagree with the second driveway, but I don't agree with putting it there. 2 weeks ago, there's a gravel pit across the road. There was a dump truck come out of the gravel pit. I was coming down the road. There was an elderly lady came and she made a U-turn because that driveway is wide. It's too wide. She went to make it. She saw the dump truck come out, which was right. The garbage truck wasn't speeding, nothing wrong with it. But she thought she could make it. There was a pickup passing. She damn near got T-boned. We'd make that driveway wider yet. You're going to have UPS. You're going to have big trucks turning around there. It's dangerous. Again, I say move that driveway back right about in here is where it was. You can see it if you look in the ditch. You can see where the driveway originally was. In that reclamation plan, that is what was supposed to happen. Environmental services dropped the ball. They didn't make hard drives put it back. The silk fence was left down in the bottom. We've got water problem because they went down lower than they were supposed to. We fought that. Couldn't do anything about it. Environmental services passed it. Please, if you look at it, move the driveway over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Environmental, yeah, speak
Deb,
to that. Thank you.
Deb, can we have the overhead one more time? There's another picture.
This is the original road he's talking about that was there back in the day.
And our well is there.
Well, not our well, our septic.
Our
there's
septic,
also
I'm sorry.
full-grown trees there. But
And I have a question for staff.
You can change it back, Deb.
The the ordinance with the county roads, you can only have so many accesses within so many feet. How does that apply to where they are saying we should put it?
Mr. Chair, Member Mossman, that would be a county road, a county highway. They would be addressing that issue. I don't know what their standards are. Typically, they like 300 feet between things. I mean, that's a general rule of thumb. So once we start putting more driveways in and trying to get things too close, they would typically expand something and manage it that way. I don't know the current utilization of that other portion of the road. So, you know, if it's not being utilized, they could remove it on their own if they would like as well. I know that there was a lot of question related to the reclamation of the site behind. I do remember Angie talking about it, and essentially there was nothing more that we could do. When we talked with the county attorney's office about it, there was a disagreement to reclamation standard, as the parties disagreed as to what that meant. The level of reclamation wasn't agreeable to both. One thought they reclaimed, the other said, no, it's not to our satisfaction, and then it was a lot of back and forth. So that's about all I remember about that one.
Yep, one last time, yep.
In 1984, when my folks built that, 1984, when my folks built that house, that driveway was approved by the county. Then when that came in, for the safety fact, that driveway got moved over. And then that driveway was to go back, and that was only supposed to be the field road going in there. My sister put in to narrow that road so we don't have the big trucks turning around like Winter Gas and different ones turning around, because there's 4 driveways right. I mean, they're close. And so I truly recommend moving that driveway back where it was. Then they get along with the neighbors, it's done. He's got the cost anyway. Just let them shrink that driveway, move that driveway back over, and I think your problem is solved. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone further wishing to speak to this?
I might have a staff question here.
Okay, go ahead.
It keeps referring to this hard drives putting this driveway in. Is there any documentation or any sort of something that supports this?
There was an interim use permit for their mining project that they had, yes. Yes.
We have that document.
Yep, they have the document.
If you're going to speak, we do need you to come to the microphone. We can't get it on tape otherwise, so.
I don't know if you want me to publish the interim use permit or not. I have it with me if you want to put it on the overhead.
The interim use permit's already recorded. It's part of the record. I mean, as far as all the land area is concerned. If there's something in that you want to speak to, certainly feel free to do that.
No, I was just answering the question.
Okay.
Yes, there is.
Thank you.
Am I to be understood, though, the driveway permit for the proposed driveway was permitted?
Correct.
And so,
Deb,
For the culvert.
Deb, can you put on the overhead
so
again,
the county
please?
has already approved that.
Correct. We added right here, it's already done. Whoops, yeah.
So if there was a problem of the placement of the driveway, the county wouldn't have approved the placement of that culvert. So
Yeah.
Here's the permit from County Highway Department to expand the existing access that's there.
And it was done by local Steve Hinkelmeyer.
Yeah.
Excavating.
And believe it or not, I worked out of that gravel pit and I helped restore it. That was a long time ago, but.
That was put in. I would like you to take note of when the work was supposed to be started and completed at the bottom of the permit.
Mr. Chair, I don't believe, I mean, that's a highway issue. If they don't feel that the permit's still valid, that would be up to highway to tell us that.
Yeah.
At this point, since it's been contested, and that's why they're here in front of you to request the impervious surface, lot coverage issue. So you feel free to address that if there was an issue. We did have highway, we've been corresponding with them just to check in to make sure we had the permit. We want to make sure it was right. And we didn't hear anything that it had expired at this point. So I would assume they would have told us that in correspondence in the last few days.
And that's typically how that goes, unless there's a concern. They don't really comment, do they?
Correct.
Okay.
And one question I have about those dates, it shows the, when the reconstruction scheduled to begin and when it's scheduled to be completed is the same day in the middle of winter.
Yes.
That.
Right. So I don't,
So
I can't
see
speak
how we
to the
can
date being.
hold them to those dates, because that isn't realistic to be putting in culverts and driveways in the middle of winter.
I would like to address that issue. That culvert and the expansion of our right-of-way was put in by the Duchette's and his contractor in February of 2023. And I want to reiterate that we had a permit in, an application to reduce that portion of the road. It is now 22 feet wide with a, right now the right-of-way apron is approximately 58 feet. Stearns County Highway guidelines for a commercial road is only 40 feet.
Can we get your name again so that, again,
My
we got to
name
keep
is
it on the.
Scott Tyson.
Scott Tyson? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
My name is Chris Doucette, and they, at the same time, they said he could reduce it
Excuse
from the
me,
other side.
I'm speaking.
But let's,
Okay.
we got to make sure
one
we
at a time,
address
if
the
it's
chair.
okay.
Let me finish my, we had a application in to reduce this field access road because of the water runoff issues that we are experiencing in our hayfield at this time. There's no need for us to own a 22-foot wide field access road that's tarred. That's why we wanted to reduce it, to minimize natural resource issues. The Sauk River is in the back of our property, and all the water ends up going there eventually. So from that standpoint, that's why we requested to reduce it. We were notified via an email sometime in January that our application was canceled. And we found out that the Duchette's were given a approval to expand on this right-of-way, deviate from the Stearns County Highway Department guidelines of 40 feet, and this approach is now at 58. The safety issues to us are very great. We've almost seen a bus get hit, a winter gas truck, which is a few miles down the road from us, turn around, pull out in front of a garbage truck, and many other safety issues with the extreme width of this right-of-way approach. And we had sent a letter to the Duchette's to cease using our road because of the high volume of use that he was doing. In that letter, we also stated to them that we would allow them to use our field access road with written permission. They not once have contacted us since January. And he does have a road there already. It's a grass road, a dirt road, whatever you want to call it. He has access to both sides of his shed.
Thank you. Amy, did you have a question for the? Was it about the request into the county?
Yes, my question was then that the request that you made to the county then was denied. Is that correct?
In the email, all it said was canceled.
Okay, thank you.
I
Referring to a commercial road, can you, is there such a thing?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I guess I'm not familiar with what the commercial road they're referring to. That could be a standard that County Highway has maybe, and maybe they can answer that.
Mr. Chair, typically, there's a residential width of a driveway, and then how they access, and then there are commercial widths. So that depends on how that intended access is to be used. So sometimes they make it wider because they're trying to manage larger trucks, bigger wheelbase, et cetera. Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And residential's typically smaller. These are a lot of highway standards. They're not zoning standards. So all we are here today to do is to address the zoning request. If any parties are aggrieved or feel like that standard and their highway issue, they should contact the highway department and see if they can look to minimize that. I mean, if that's something that they want to do, they certainly can have another conversation with the Stearns County Highway folks and see if they can make a reduction. I don't know if our highway folks know the full story of everything. So this may make a difference. I don't know. But it certainly wouldn't hurt if the Tysons would like to, have additional contact with the highway folks if they feel that that's driveway width is in excess of what they feel is safe.
And my name is Chris Doucette, and I do apologize I didn't realize he was still speaking at the time, so I do apologize for that. But as the highway department approved this here, they told me that they had told him he could shrink this site if he wanted to, and he chose not to. If he was so concerned about the water runoff that he could shrink this side of the driveway, he wanted to shrink this side, which would have been into my road approach, and that's why they canceled it. So that's the information I know.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
question for staff. I would just like some guidance or confirmation of lack of guidance where the applicant is stating the use of this driveway will be occasional for their fifth wheel, but the public testimony states that it's more for business. As an impartial board, how are we supposed to take the conflicting information?
Jacob, as chair, I'm like looking, saying, pardon my confusion at the moment. So, Mr. Chair and Member DeLong, the issue is before you is the request over impervious surface lot coverage. If there is an issue related to use of the property and there was a violation of our zoning ordinance related to that, then we would address it through zoning purposes. If there are limited exceptions to use of accessory structures, often we see people who are contractors have their construction trailers and they drive them into their big sheds and then they drive them out and they're not doing the business on the property, so to speak. They're driving away. They don't have employees coming to that. Once they start having employees and those employees start coming, and then we have a use issue. So we often see that there are home uses, for lack of a better term. In this case, it'd be an accessory building use. And we see that in various forms all across the county that people have different types of uses. If it became a repair garage, then we would have a zoning issue. So we would address it through that process. If there's a violation of the use, then that's a separate issue from a zoning standpoint than the impervious surface request that's in front of you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
One other thing.
Could you state your name again, please?
Jim Willard.
Thank you.
The other thing is, if he gets this allowed, he wants to put his rain garden over here. And if you know, there's a well right there.
You've got to speak into the microphone or we won't get it on the record.
If you look, he wants to put the rain garden right alongside his shed over there. If you look at that dot I just pointed at, that's the neighbor's well on the other side. I wouldn't recommend putting that by his well. I think it's best to put it in the back here. Although the well to that house is there, let him drink the water instead of the neighbor drink the water. That is a dug well on that side. That is a drilled well on their property. So that rain garden doesn't do anything on that side of the property. It needs to come over here. If you don't mind me pointing, there is his well. The other well's over here. This one's dug. This one is drilled. So the rain garden should wind up back here. The driveway should come here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question for staff. If the stormwater plan, that would have to be approved by you.
Correct. And there are setbacks from wells, and they are met with the plan that has been provided.
And I have one more question for staff. If they were to move the driveway, the amount of impervious surface would probably stay the same. Am I correct?
I would imagine they appear to be about the same distance from the existing driveway to the road right-of-way. But again, I cannot comment on whether County Highway would issue them a permit to have a driveway there.
But that, as an alternative, wouldn't really change the request that they're asking.
They're still going to need the variance, correct?
All right, thank you.
In the second proposed one, there's a septic system and mature trees that would be impacted, so I think the plan that's before us today makes more sense.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Hearing, seeing none, motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, Mike Pearl, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion from Mike.
Jill, I'll second.
Second from Jill. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to our finding of facts, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning districts in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Remember, the use is related to the impervious surface question.
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I'm going to say that yes, it is okay to have a driveway in an R1 zoning district.
Yes from Jill. Amy?
Yes, and it's also, you should be able to access.
Yep, and pull that microphone closer. Thank you.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Yes for number one. Number two, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls. Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I believe the intent of the official controls is to limit the amount of impervious coverage of the lot so that you'll get less flooding. There's more pervious footage for water to infiltrate. And as this variance request includes an engineered stormwater management plan, I believe that it is in harmony.
Okay, a yes from Jill. Amy?
Circle back.
Okay. Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Yes from Amy. Yes for number two. Number three, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I'm going to say no. Nature Water Resource Policies number 5, to recognize the carrying capacity of groundwater and surface water in development and land use decisions. If the photo supplied by the public testimony shows there's already flooding in the area, and I believe that by increasing the impervious area beyond what we recommend, that would be not a good thing. So I'm going to say no.
Okay. Amy, you want to circle?
Yep.
Okay. Bonnie?
I'm going to say yes, because with the plan for the rain garden, it compensates for the overage on the impervious surface.
Okay, yes from Bonnie. Mike?
I'm going to say yes, and then in relation to that photo, the timing of the photo was kind of misleading.
Okay, I'm a yes.
I'm also a yes. Yes.
Okay. Yes for number 3. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner. Yes or no?
I think having access to both doors to a shed is reasonable.
Okay, yes from Bonnie. Jill?
Yes.
Amy?
I'm also a yes, and it's unfortunate that there couldn't have been an easement done here.
Okay, Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Yes for number 4. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner.
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I believe that no, it's not unique to the property. They have a shed. It has access from 2 different doors. He has a driveway to one. It might not be tarred, but he has grass access to the other one. I think it's really a preference of the landowner.
Okay. Amy?
Come back to me.
Okay. Bonnie?
Can you reread the question, please?
Yep. The plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner. I'm going to circle back.
Mm-hmm.
Mike?
I'm going to say it's unique to the property, and he's doing his best to use it in a reasonable manner. I think a variance or easement would have been the way to go, but in lieu of that, I think this is reasonable.
Okay, I'll vote yes as well. Amy?
I'm also a yes. It's unfortunate that you guys couldn't work something out with the neighbors, when purchase the property too. So, there should have been an easement.
Bonnie?
And I'm going to say yes, because I think moving the driveway over causes additional highway issues when you're putting driveways closer together, when there's one that currently already exists that you could work off of.
Okay. Yes for number 5. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality. Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, Mike Pearl, I don't think it's going to change the character of the locality or anything. It's just moving the road over to access their property, and the other landowner, if he wishes, he can narrow his.
Okay. Yes for Mike. Jill?
I'm going to say no, in that by having that driveway right next to the neighbor's driveway, if that makes a width that's wider than the road that's next to it, I think that does change the character. And I don't think that it's right for one neighbor to put a driveway right next to somebody else's and say, well, if they have concerns about the water, they can just reduce theirs. That's one neighbor trying to force cost and effort on the other neighbor. So I'm going to say no, it does not maintain it.
Okay, Amy?
I'm a yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Yes for number 6. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations. Yes or no?
I don't believe economics were really, part of the discussion at all.
Okay, yes from Bonnie. Jill?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Yes, for number 7. The 7 questions have been answered in the affirmative, so looking for a motion to approve this variance request.
Mr. Chair, Mike Pearl, I'd like to move to approve the request.
Okay, motion from Mike.
Mr. Chair, member Amy Sherping, I'll second it.
Okay. And from Amy, remaining votes, Jill,
No.
Bonnie,
Yes.
and myself, I'm a yes. The variance request is granted. Any questions, please contact staff during regular business hours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've had a request to take just a very short break. How about 5? We come back from recess in 5 minutes. Thank you.
How'd you like our heat wave last week? I was trying to put in windows and do carpenter work.
Oh,
that's terrible.
Nobody's business here. See, I work indoors most of the time, so I guess it doesn't matter to me.
I took walls out that were lath and plaster and insulation.
Oh, and then you get all that stuff all over you, and then it's hot besides. And these chairs are not super
If I
comfy.
could have hired a contractor, I would have.
item.
Provided by the applicants. The property is in the R1 zoning district. The applicants purchased the property in 2021. There is an existing 2,346 square foot residential dwelling with attached garage that was permitted and constructed in 1995. The subsurface sewage treatment system that services the dwelling was permitted and installed in 1995 and 2006. The system was certified compliant in 2020. The applicants are requesting a variance to construct decks of 15 feet by 10 feet, 150 square feet, and 12 by 10 feet, 120 square feet, lakeward ahead of the established building line. As part of the request, the applicants are proposing to remove stairs and landings down to the lake and the gravel portion of the driveway to meet the 25% lot coverage requirement. The property is in the Shoreland Overlay District of Long Lake, which is classified recreational development. Long is not on the list of impaired waters. The subsurface sewage treatment system on the property was permitted and installed in 1995 and 2006 and certified compliant in 2020. The current impervious lot coverage is 27.53%. The proposed impervious lot coverage will be 24.87%. Collegeville Township, Long Lake Association, Sauk River Watershed District, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. And I did receive one correspondence that came in. This was from a Melissa Ryan. I am writing in support of the request to construct decks at 27847 Jerboa Lane. As a neighbor, Long Lake resident, and president of the Lake Association, I support the construction project requested by John and Tiffany Steinke. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. To your requests, any comments, anything you wish to say to the board?
I know I did talk to Bonnie and Amy, and actually, if you look up there, we had the cabin just to the right of it, so we bought that first, and then we lived in St. Michael, where I teach, and my wife works at Long Haul Trucking. So the house we bought 2 years ago kind of met more of our needs. One of the things that actually drew us to the house was the huge ledger plate on the back of the house. It stretched 48 feet. My wife's a deck person. She likes to suntan things. And then we thought, oh, perfect, that's going to be great. There's already a couple patios there to access it. And then when we put it through, last year, I didn't follow through. They just said, no, you need a variance because this is way too big. So this year we moved forward, and the surveyor came out, and he's like, well, you have way too much impervious surface. So I know Jamie helped me with that, and we kind of worked on what we could possibly do. And I did remove the stairs so far. I know I maybe Bonnie, I think Amy, you were there when I was kind of maybe finishing up. I got the stairs out of there, so that's the first part. Where the fish house sits there, that's not going to be there. That's kind of a summer. My kids have all their friends up, they crash in there. But that will all become grass also. So, well, thank you. I'm actually surprised I didn't see more of you. And I was shocked that Bonnie showed up at, I think, 7 o'clock on a Saturday. My wife and I were enjoying a cocktail. That was really, really great of both of them to show up and actually talk with me.
Any questions for the applicant?
Well, I have a question for whoever can answer it. When in the application it says it would remove the gravel portion of the driveway. What does that mean?
Where the fish house was.
I can answer that question, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So there's the survey. So this portion right here where that fish house was is currently gravel. And so he's proposing to put that into grass as well to reduce that impervious to get him down to his 24%, along with the stairs that are in this area, which I believe have actually been removed already.
Yeah, gone.
And so that will bring his impervious down to the 24.87% that is proposed in our staff report.
Any other questions?
Well, I have a question for the applicant. Did you buy the house through a realtor, or did you have contact with the previous owner, or?
Yeah, the previous owner, actually, when we moved in, within the first couple of days, he came over and introduced himself. And as we got to know each other, he wanted to know if we had any friends that would be interested in this house. So later on, I'm like, well, we would. So we kind of made a no realtor deal, and we ended up buying the home, and we sold our cabin and moved here, and we drive to St. Michael every day.
Did he explain to you why you had those big patio doors there with nothing outside of them?
The funny thing is, when we got there, it was built in 95. So my wife, we did a lot of remodeling, cabinets and things. And the guy who actually I was put in touch with originally built the house. And he's like, oh, no, we put that ledger on there because he intended to build the deck in that first year. And he just never got around to it.
Never did.
So I know maybe that was a reason he didn't. If once he put down so much concrete, I don't know. But
I have a staff question. So the house was built in 1995. The ledger plates are already there. Could it, at that time, before the ordinance, the new ordinance took effect, could it at that time had met the standard?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, so how things were done back in that time were a little bit different. This was before our land use and zoning ordinance that came into effect in 2000. In 95, I have a copy of the permit here. There was no mention of decks on there. Now, I'm not saying that wasn't his intent, but on his application, he did not fill out the deck area, and he has no decks shown on here. But during that time, generally how things were done is when you constructed your structure behind the building line, you were given what they call the 15% rule, which would be you would measure the distance between your house and the ordinary high and multiply that by 15%, and that would give you a certain amount, a number of deck area. And so if you do that under the information that is provided here, technically he would have been able to do a 12-foot deck towards the lake. Now, in talking with Shelley can verify this, but at that time, the way Stearns County was allowing that, it was done incorrectly. We just know that now on how the ordinance was, but that doesn't mean that other decks weren't constructed that way. If that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I assume you probably don't have a question, but legally I'm required to ask if anyone in the audience wishes to speak to this variance request. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this request? And finally, anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this request? Hearing none. Looking for a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I move to close the public hearing.
I know that's better. Motion from Jill, second.
I'll second it.
Second from Amy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now moving to our finding of facts. Number one, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning districts in which the subject property is located.
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, having a deck on your residential home is allowed in the R1 zoning district.
Yeah, it was pretty loud. Okay. Yes. Rob?
Yes.
Amy?
I'm a yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Yes.
Mike? That was really bad how distracting that was. I apologize. Number two, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls, yes or no?
I'm going to say yes. Again, the house was built in 1995. The ledger board was added. I do think at that time, if the deck was constructed, it would have met.
All right. Yes from Amy. Jill?
Circle back, please.
Okay. Rob?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Jill?
I'll say yes.
Okay. Yes for number two. Number three, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I'm a yes. Under living goals number 3, it is unsafe to have patio doors and somebody could easily fall out. It's not uncommon, so something needs to be there. You guys are going to have grandkids at some point in your life, and I would ever hate to hear of anything happening down the road.
Yes from Amy. Jill?
Yes.
Rob?
I'm going to say no under Lakeshore Living number 8.
Okay.
Does not preserve the sight lines.
Okay. Bonnie?
I'm going to say yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 3. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I'm a yes. Again, for safety reasons, there's 2 sliding doors. I mean, you have guests over. Someone can just open that wrong door not knowing. I mean, my dad has fallen out the back of a deck, so it happens.
Yes from Amy. Jill?
Well, to speak to Amy's point of, if it's really a safety factor, he doesn't necessarily need to build decks that are against the building line. He could just replace that door with a window or something like that. So I don't know if that's really the best argument, but I do think that having decks on the lakeside of your residential home is a reasonable manner to use the property.
Okay. Yes from Jill. Rob?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 4. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property not created by landowner, yes or no?
I'm going to say yes, due to the fact that this house was originally designed to have decks by those patio doors.
Okay. Yes from Bonnie?
And I'm going to say yes and add on to Bonnie's. Those deck boards were already attached
Okay.
when the house was constructed.
Yes from Amy. Jill?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 5. Number 6, the variance if granted maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I'm a yes. The other homes in that area also have decks on them as well that
Okay.
are bigger.
Yes from Amy. Jill?
Yes.
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 Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 6. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations. Yes or no?
I'm going to say yes, Bonnie Mossman. It's the applicant's request for livability rather than an economic issue.
Okay, yes from Bonnie. Jill?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 7. So all questions being answered in the affirmative. Looking for a motion to approve the variance request.
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I move to approve the variance to construct decks ahead of the established building line.
Okay, motion from Jill.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
Second from Amy. The remaining votes, Rob?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
All right, with those votes, your variance request is approved. Any questions, please contact staff during regular business hours.
Thank you.
Thank you. And number 6, the request from Reed and, is it Bowen?
Yeah, must be
Bowen Meyer, Cold Spring, Minnesota, from Section 621A of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to construct a 32-foot by 56-foot, 1792 square feet residential accessory structure with a 14-foot sidewall height on a property with a lot area of 1.2 acres in the Shore Overlay District. Said ordinance allows for a maximum accessory structure area of 1,500 square feet and a side wall height of 12 feet for a property with a lot area of 1 to 1.99 acres. And the affected property address is 16908 County Road 49 in Cold Spring, Minnesota. And if I can get your name and address for the public record, please.
My name is Reed Meyer, address 16908 County Road 49, Cold Spring.
Thank you. And staff to report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Again, a show of hands of who had a chance to visit the site. Thank you. Any conversations that need to be shared? Okay. The applicants own a meets and bounds tract that contains 52,272 square feet, 1.2 acres in Wakefield Township. The tract is zoned R1. The applicants purchased the property in 2003. There is an existing 1,048 square foot residential dwelling with an enclosed porch that was constructed in 1940 per the Stearns County Assessor's records prior to the official controls. There is also a 672 square foot detached garage that was permitted and constructed in 1988. The subsurface sewage treatment system that services the residential dwelling was permitted and installed in 1997, certified compliant in 2022, November of 2022. The proposed structure has not been constructed at this point. The residential accessory structure standards in the Shoreland Overlay District for lots between 1 and 1.99 acres allows for 2 buildings with a maximum sidewall height of 1,200 square feet, or excuse me, 12 feet, with a maximum building height of 20 feet and a total cumulative area of 1,500 square feet. The applicants are requesting a variance to replace the existing 672 square foot detached garage with a 32 foot by 56 foot, 1,792 square foot residential accessory structure with a 14-foot sidewall height. The property is in the Shoreland Overlay District of Bullfine Lake, which is classified recreational development. Bullfine is on the list of impaired waters for nutrients. The subsurface sewage treatment system on the property was permitted and installed in 1997 and certified compliant in 2002. The current impervious lot coverage of the property is approximately 17%. The proposed will be approximately 19%. An alternative to the request would be to construct a residential accessory structure that meets the residential accessory standards in the Shoreland Overlay District. Wakefield Township, Sauk River Chain of Lakes Association, Sauk River Watershed District, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request, and I did not receive any correspondence with regards to this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything you wish to say about your application request?
I'm sorry?
Anything you wish to say about your application request to the board?
Just thank you for your consideration. Thank you for your help. I'm looking to build a building. I have a small trucking company. I'm all by myself. I have a couple trucks, a couple trailers, looking for a building to service them, work on them, keep them serviced, keep them in running order. And the building that I originally talked to Jamie about was not going to go, kind of came up with a compromise. And I think this building would be just right.
Thank you. Any questions?
For the applicant, I noticed you had a lowboy trailer and a flatbed trailer sitting there. Just to give the other board members an idea, a typical flatbed trailer, would you say correctly, is 48 to 53 feet long?
Correct.
And the needed sidewall height, that's so you can access the vehicle with the garage door, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Any questions? Okay. Hearing no further questions from the board, there appears to be no one to speak to this variance request, but legally I'm required to ask. Anyone wishing to speak to the variance request? Anyone wishing to speak to the variance request? Anyone wishing to speak to the variance request? Hearing none as expected. Looking for a motion to close the public hearing.
Just one quick question for staff. There was a building permit already, correct?
Mr. Chair, members of the board. So let me grab the permit here. In 2022, the fall of 2022, Mr. Meyer wanted to be able to start doing the dirt work for this, and Reed, if I speak out of turn, let me know, okay? This was my understanding that when the fall came, he had some extra time and wanted to be able to prepare his area for his new shed. At that time, he didn't think he would be able to get the variance process completed before winter time, and so he applied for a permit just to meet the requirements so that he could start that base. And so now he's in front of you for the larger structure, which he always had intended to, but just couldn't do it at that time. And I think with his job the way it is, summers get to be very busy, and so that's why he had to do that in the fall. Is there any more that you want to add? Because I wasn't the one who permitted it, so it was right. Jennifer.
The reason that I did that was, you're absolutely right, to get the site prep done, get the dirt in there so it could go a freeze and thaw cycle to settle it. So the building that I do put there, I'm already that far ahead of the game.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Good question.
No, you're fine. Motion to close public hearing?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Okay, motion from Amy, second.
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I'll second.
Second from Jill. All those in favor of closing the public hearing say aye.
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 Same sign. Motion carries. Now moving to our finding of facts. The proposed use is allowed in the zoning districts in which the subject property is located. Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, having a residential accessory structure is approved or is allowed in the Zone R1 district.
Okay. Yes from Jill. Rob?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number one. Number two, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls. Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I'm going to say no. The proposed square footage is 1792, which is almost 1,800 square feet, which is the maximum accessory building area for the next larger size of lots, 2 to 4.5 acres, where he only has 1.2 acres. I feel like that is a significant variance amount there, so I'm going to say no.
Okay, no for Jill. Rob?
I'm going to say no and add on vaguely to what Jill said under the statement of purpose in the land use and zoning ordinance. B, promoting and providing for the orderly development of agricultural, residential, commercial, industrial, recreational, public areas, and land uses. The standards are set. If you're not orderly, then anybody can have anything.
Okay, no from Rob. Amy?
Circle back.
Okay, Bonnie?
I'm going to say no for the reason that as far as the height of the door, I totally understand that. You know, that's not an issue for me. But I'm not in construction, so I really don't know if this is feasible or reasonable. But if it were like a 28 by 56, it would come within just a few feet of meeting the standard. And I don't know as far as size of rafters and, you know, all of that, as far as that would be reasonable or not. But I think it would be possible.
Mike?
I'm going to say yes.
Amy?
I'm a yes.
Could I hear from Mike or Amy the reasons behind the yes, please?
Well, he's building a shed to put his equipment in. I mean, your semi from floor to ground from stack on an average is 13 feet. The trailer length anywhere is from 48 to 53. You know, you need that room. You need that wiggle room to get around in there, too.
But how does that relate to being okay with the official controls?
Where he's asking to put there is no other good place on the property to put it either. I mean,
It's not the placement, that's not the issue. It's the height and the square feet. He's over on both. In order to be in the purpose and intent sections of the zoning, that's the orderly numbers for that size of a lot.
get why you want to do what you want to do. Come back to me.
Okay.
Technically, I think we got 3 no's and 2 yeses, so it was just more me to try to understand the other point of view.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No for number 2. 3, the variance will be consistent with comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I'm a yes. I do feel that it falls under business goals. Number 1, to be business friendly.
Okay. Yes from Amy. Jill?
I'm going to say no under business, rural business policies. Number 3, to encourage rural businesses seeking expansion to locate near major transportation corridors, mixed-use areas, or transitional areas. From his application, it sounds like he wanted to expand some of the capabilities of his business, and so I think it falls under that.
Okay. No from Jill. Rob?
No.
Bonnie?
No.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, no for number 3. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
I'd say yes. It's reasonable to want to be able to put your trailers or your property inside of a shed.
Okay, yes from Bonnie. Jill?
Yes.
Rob? Yes. Amy?
I'm a yes in that too. I mean, we do have winters around here, and nobody wants to work out in the cold, so it would make sense to want to work in a building.
Mm-hmm. Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 4. Number 5, that the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner, yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to say no. The size and the height of the building is totally at the landowner's discretion.
Okay, no from Rob. Jill?
No.
Amy?
I'm going to say yes. I mean, the way that the parcel is, it is the most ideal place to put without having to knock out all those trees.
Okay. Yes from Amy. Bonnie?
I'm going to say no.
Mike?
Yes.
No for number 5. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I'm going to say no because it is a very large building. It's, according to the ordinance, it's something that would be fit on a 2 or larger acre of land, and this one's smaller than that. So I think it would change the character of the locality.
Okay, no from Jill. Rob?
I will agree with that.
Amy?
Circle back.
Okay. Bonnie?
I'm going to say yes because, you know, there is a significant distance between where the shed's placement is and the house next door, and it's replacing a shed that's already there. So it's a bit larger, but I don't think that that's going to change the neighborhood that much.
Okay. Yes from Bonnie. Mike?
Yes.
Amy?
I'm also a yes, but you know, you can't even see the property from the road. I mean, there's so many trees when you come in there. I don't know how that would, it's not going to affect any neighbors or anything.
Okay, that's what? Yep. And then the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations, yes or no?
I don't believe economics were the issue here, so.
Okay, yes from
I'd say
Bonnie?
yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
All right. There were several no answers, so we have to look for denial of this request as presented. Looking for a motion for the denial.
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I move that we deny the variance.
Okay, motion from Jill, second.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
Second from Rob. All those in favor of the denial? Amy? No. Bonnie?
Yes.
And Mike?
No.
Okay. They're receiving adequate votes for the denial. This variance request as presented is denied, but please do contact staff during business hours and we'll see what we can figure out for you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll give you a call tomorrow. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Jamie.
Moving now to the minutes to approve from our Thursday, May 11th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to peruse those minutes?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion from Amy to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Second from Bonnie to approve the minutes. All those in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Shelley, got anything, information for us, or? I do not. What?
Do you have an idea on how many will be on the agenda next month? Just out of curiosity.
We have 2 in right now, but I wouldn't be doing
Give me
that
something.
because
Give me
there's gonna
hope.
be probably 5 or 6
I'm
more
sure.
coming in.
When is the deadline, or?
A lot of questions
Oh, I believe
about
it.
variances, so I'm not saying that's a guarantee, but more than likely there's gonna be a bunch again.
Short-term rentals?
There's one for sure.
No.
Somebody has to bring snacks.
Better. Charcuterie board.
Do you guys want these?
I forgot mine.
Anybody else have anything for us?
Mail it in.
Mileage forms.
Oh, I got another meeting next week.
All right, then with that, looking for a motion to close the Board of Adjustment meeting?
Mr. Chair, Jill DeLong, I move to close the meeting.
Motion from Jill to close the meeting.
Second.
Second, Bronny. All those in favor of closing the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.